Entonces, sin nada más que agregar, te doy la palabra y te agradezco muchísimo por estar aquí con nosotros el día de hoy.
Muchísimas gracias, Héctor. Es un placer estar con todos ustedes. Y si les parece bien, lo que podemos hacer es tener una primera parte, ¿verdad? Un poquito más introductoria, en la que yo les cuento un poquito acerca del trabajo que estoy haciendo, un poco acerca también de digamos, de mi camino, ¿verdad? Para llegar a este centro donde estoy trabajando dentro de Boston College. Y si les parece bien, podemos platicar el inglés también. A mí me da siempre muy buena, bueno, primero, siempre valoro mucho, ¿no? La oportunidad de platicar, y también muchas veces uno de los obstáculos, ¿verdad?, que a lo largo de mi carrera yo me he encontrado es que muchas veces nos da un poco de pena el hablar en inglés con acento extranjero, ¿verdad? En el caso nuestro, con acento mexicano, y por lo tanto, ¿verdad? Yo sí quisiera que cuando entremos a la parte de conversación, que se animen a hacer preguntas, a conversar, porque una de las cosas que yo les enseño a mis estudiantes de posgrado en el Centro para la Educación Superior Internacional es que el inglés, ¿verdad?, no es un idioma que le pertenezca a ningún país de manera exclusiva. Al contrario, ¿verdad?, es un idioma que muchas veces le llamamos una lengua franca, ¿verdad?, que conecta a personas y a culturas, ¿verdad?, que tienen diferentes tradiciones lingüísticas, y como resultado hay que acostumbrarnos, ¿verdad?, hay que acostumbrarnos a escuchar diferentes acentos, ¿verdad?, ya sea un acento latinoamericano, un acento, ¿verdad?, en inglés, de muchas veces, ¿verdad?, nuestros colegas de India y Pakistán y Bangladesh que hablan inglés, ¿verdad?, desde la infancia o desde la escuela, pero que lo hablan de una manera diferente, ¿verdad? Entonces, en un contexto global, que es lo que estamos buscando hacer, nos ayuda a todos, ¿verdad? El acostumbrarnos a escucharnos a nosotros mismos, comunicándonos en inglés, y también a escuchar a otros, ¿verdad? Entonces, vamos a hacer eso, ¿verdad?, sin ninguna pena o sin ninguna, sin sentirnos, ¿verdad?, introvertidos o nada como eso. Entonces, les cuento pues de manera muy breve. Yo soy de Acapulco Guerrero, y yo estudié la universidad en Puebla, en la Universidad de las Américas, que fue una oportunidad pues muy buena para mí, para poder comenzar a tener esta proyección internacional. Y para mí como estudiante fue algo muy enriquecedor, y la verdad que me da muchísimo gusto el poder estar platicando con ustedes el día de hoy, ¿verdad? Porque veo que esa misma proyección internacional, para empezar, ¿verdad?, la UNAM siempre la ha tenido, siempre ha sido, ¿verdad?, como este estandarte que representa a México, no solamente en América Latina, sino en el mundo. Entonces, qué bueno que estén teniendo esta oportunidad, es un placer. Y en un futuro, ¿verdad?, yo espero que nos volvamos a encontrar, que si hay algo en lo que yo les pueda apoyar en su desarrollo profesional, en sus aspiraciones, ¿verdad?, de a lo mejor estudiar en el extranjero o buscar un intercambio, este tipo de cosas, ¿verdad?, siempre son muy positivas. Y la otra cuestión, ¿verdad?, yo llegué a los Estados Unidos como estudiante internacional. Tuve la oportunidad de hacer mi maestría en la Universidad de Maine, que está aquí en Estados Unidos, al norte de Massachusetts, donde yo vivo actualmente. Y después de hacer la maestría, tuve la oportunidad de trabajar en la Universidad de Massachusetts en Amherst, que está aquí también, ¿verdad?, en Massachusetts. Después de trabajar ahí, ustedes posiblemente saben que en las universidades de Estados Unidos tenemos dormitorios, ¿verdad?, edificios residenciales que también ayudan a la formación integral de los estudiantes. Entonces, yo estuve trabajando como director de una de estas residencias en el campus, y después, ¿verdad? Comencé mi doctorado. Hice mi doctorado, comencé a trabajar y he trabajado en 3 universidades diferentes. Mi primer puesto como profesor e investigador fue en la Universidad de Massachusetts, Boston, ¿verdad? Donde está el centro UNAM, ¿verdad? De estudios mexicanos. Después me fui por 2 años a la Universidad de Connecticut, que está también cerca de aquí en la región de Nueva Inglaterra. Y hace unos meses, en julio, cambié, ¿verdad? Y me vine al Centro para la Educación Superior Internacional en Boston College. Y bueno, es de nuevo un placer estar con ustedes, darles la bienvenida de manera virtual, pero espero que sepan, ¿verdad?, que siempre tienen su casa en Boston. Es una de las ciudades en cuestiones de universidad, en cuestiones de educación superior. Es una de las ciudades más interesantes del mundo, ¿verdad? Dentro de, ¿verdad?, ciertos kilómetros a la redonda hay más de 40 universidades o centros de aprendizaje avanzados, ¿verdad? Entonces, es un lugar muy interesante para conocer, para visitar, pero también para realizar estudios, ¿verdad? Entonces, si, como les digo, esta es su casa y siempre están las puertas abiertas en Boston College. Entonces, si quieren, este podría ser un buen punto, ¿verdad?, para cambiar. Y entonces podemos, a lo mejor, si ustedes gustan, cambiar a la sesión de preguntas y respuestas, y a lo mejor yo les invito, ¿verdad?, a que cualquiera de ustedes, no sé si el grupo es pequeño, entonces pueden nada más prender su micrófono, ¿verdad? Entonces, cuando prendan su micrófono ya sabemos que alguien quiere hablar. Entonces, si podrían decir su nombre, ¿verdad? Y si hay alguna pregunta que ustedes quieran hacer, lo podemos hacer. Entonces, ¿por qué no hacemos esta sesión de preguntas y respuestas en inglés para ir practicando un poquito? Entonces, quien quiera comenzar, adelante.
Perdón, Gerardo, quizás si puedes comentar nada más 3 minutos de lo que hace el centro, para que también tengan un poquito más de material para preguntarte, aparte de tu trayectoria, sobre lo que hacen ahí en Boston College, sería genial. Y después sí pasamos a la sesión de discusión y de preguntas y de respuestas, ¿te parece?
Fabuloso, gracias, Héctor. Y si les parece bien, les doy esta introducción en inglés para ir calentando motores un poquito, ¿verdad? So the Center for International Higher Education is the oldest research center focused on the study of higher education in the United States, and if I can say in most parts of the world. So in 1995, our colleague Philip Albach came to Boston College from the University at Buffalo, which is part of the State University of New York system, right? And he came to Boston College with the idea of starting a research center that would look at higher education, not from the American, not from the US perspective, but rather from a more global perspective. One of the problems that we often have in American academia is that we often tend to think as this may be a little contradictory, right? But in the United States, many students and even professors tend to have a very closed-off view of the world, right? We tend to think about the way we do things in the US as not only the best way, but the only way. And unlike in our culture in Mexico, where we often have an aspiration to travel, to learn a foreign language, to learn about other cultures, American culture, US culture is very closed off. Most Americans only speak English and they rarely learn a foreign language. Most Americans, even college students, do not travel abroad for vacation, for recreation, or for study. And for that reason, very often they don't realize that universities are different, right? So in other parts of the world. So the mission of our center is to promote research on international higher education. In other words, what do we know about university learning that we can share with colleagues from other parts of the world? The other part of our mission, right, is we are committed to open access publications. So we ourselves and our network of partners do a lot of research about higher education in different countries. So one of our flagship publications is called International Higher Education. It gets translated to 5 different languages. One of them, of course, is to Spanish, but we also translate to Russian, Chinese, Portuguese, and Vietnamese. So part of our mission, right, is to contribute to share knowledge and information about higher education in different parts of the world. We also provide training both of through academic programs. So we have a master's in international higher education. We also have doctoral programs in higher education, and we offer certificates, right, for people in the US who have an interest in global higher education, but also for colleagues from other parts of the world to learn about to learn more about higher education from a global perspective. So publications, research, training, both academic and professional training. And then finally, we promote a lot of networking, right? This idea of bringing people together. So I hope that whenever you have the chance, you visit our website. We often have webinars. So for example, next week on Tuesday, we will be having a webinar related to the work that the World Bank, El Banco Mundial, right, is doing around higher education. So this World Bank organization has a whole section dedicated to higher education. And the lead for that role is actually somebody who did her PhD in higher education with us at Boston College. So we are having that event, and we have at least one webinar every month about different aspects of higher education. So our events are always open and free. So you are certainly welcome to join us at anytime about, for these different events. So if that works as an overview, the other thing I would say, for all the things that we do, we are a very small center. So I serve as the academic director. We have one managing director, and we both are the 2 full-time teaching staff in the center. And then everybody else are graduate researchers. We have 3 graduate students who are pursuing a PhD and 1 who is doing a master's, and they all support, right? So everything that happens in the center happens with this very small group and with a much larger network of recent graduates, of friends of the center, and people who support our mission through different events. So I'm really open to maybe answering any questions that you may have. And if you could just briefly kind of like say your name, and just ask anything, right? Like this is, again, just a conversation among colleagues to learn more about each other and to learn more about your interest and any questions you may have. So we have Esther. Esther, would you like to? And then we will go with Brenda.
Thank you. Well, my name is Esther Alonso. I am a PhD student at UNAM en Facultad de Ciencias Políticas y Sociales, and my research is about global cities and immigration. So I think it's very interesting what you do in the Center for Higher Education. And my question is if there is any possibility to make some research stay, for example. I don't know. Well, I was planning to do research stay, but with the COVID, all trips were canceled. But I really very interested in doing that because it could be very important for my research and for my professional career. So that's my question. And I don't know if maybe there are some postdoctoral research stays or stays research, I don't know, something like that.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic question. And the good news is that yes, we do. We have a very rich visiting scholar program, right? That's what we call these. Of course, as a small center, our capacity is limited, but the way it works is we have a deadline every semester, right? So for example, if you wanted to come in the fall semester, anytime between September and December of this year, the deadline to apply for that visiting scholar is April of this, right, so this April. So we just get those requests a few months in advance. Really, of course, we don't have the capacity, right, to fund visiting scholars, but the way it works is if you are able to secure funding from your current institution, or I'm not sure if CONACYT or some other funding agency provides funding for these research visits, we actually charge a very small processing fee just for the visa. Right, it's really just for that reason if you come in person, right? Other than that, we provide access to our library, an email address. So during that period of time, it's as if you are a graduate student with us, right? And then one of the things that we normally ask our visiting scholars is that during the time of their visit, they do something within our center. That can be visiting a class, or maybe doing a research seminar, a presentation where you are sharing findings from your research, something along those lines. And all of that information is within our website. So if you come to our website and visit and look for visiting scholars, all the information that you want will be available there. Yeah, we certainly do, and it is a great opportunity to kind of have that exchange, short-term exchange. If I'm not mistaken, next we had Brenda. So Brenda, please go right ahead.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brenda, and my question for today is, what's better, investing in college study or a graduate degree in the USA?
I would say it really depends. It really depends on your goals, right? Like I know that as students, we are often bombarded by all these different messages, right? About like, well, this is what you should be doing. If you aren't, if it hasn't happened yet, I'm sure it will happen at some point. There is a lot of sometimes conflicting information about rankings, right? And what is the best university? What is the best school? And I really would say sometimes we kind of fall for those messages rather than trying to figure out what is better for you according to your own goals and your own aspirations. Let me just start by saying that all of you already are so far ahead of where I was when I was about your age. You know, when I really count myself as being very lucky, right? So just kind of being where I am because I did not have a lot of advice when I was a student myself, right? So I come from a very working class family. My parents didn't have the chance to go to university themselves. So a lot of what I did in university was kind of like learning, trial and error, right? And I had mentors and I had teachers who helped me along the way, but I wasn't very strategic, right? So I would say it's really best that you look for the goals that you have, right? And that you gather information about all of the different opportunities and academic programs and different types of institutions. So for example, when I was a student back home, I really wanted to go in an exchange as an undergraduate student, right? But finances were just not, they didn't make it possible. It just really wasn't within reach to be paying, you know, I was paying a high tuition at the time, even though I had a scholarship. So I didn't have to pay full tuition. I was paying only part of that, but I just couldn't ask my family for more, right? Like it just didn't feel right. So I kind of waited later on, and then I had this great opportunity to study abroad for my whole master's program. So I would say, if something doesn't work, the other thing I will tell you just very quickly is that when I was finishing my bachelor's, my undergraduate degree, right, I applied for a Fulbright and I didn't get it. So I went through the whole interview process. So I think I was close, but I wasn't selected. What I would say is, if things don't work out the first time you try, don't give up. Keep trying, right? Because if it's not that way, there could be another way. So I still did my master's in the US, and I did it without a Fulbright. I was very fortunate to work at the university. So I was working at the University of Maine, and that covered my tuition. And you know, I had a place to live, and my expenses were covered that way. So I would say, don't give up, and there is always more than one way to get to meet your goals and to accomplish what you're trying to achieve. I think I had seen Frida's hand next. So Frida, we have you there. Please go right ahead and ask your question.
Yes, hi. Well, firstly, I want to apologize for not having my camera on, but I have a very poor internet connection, so sorry. And well, my name is Frida. I'm studying psychology at the UNAM, specifically in FES Zaragoza. And I have two questions. The first is that what are the requirements for getting an international scholarship? And the second one is, do you know what is the degree of importance that the universities in the United States gives to the psychology?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I will say in the US, the study of psychology tends to take different paths, right? So it's very interesting because in any given university, you usually will find more than one psychology program. So for example, there tends to be the more clinical psychology, which tends to be in schools of arts and sciences, usually in the arts and sciences faculties. Then there is the more, sometimes we call it counseling psychology or family psychology, family therapy, and those are usually in schools of education, in faculties of education, like where I teach, right? So it really depends on your specialization. One tends to be more experimental, and the other one tends to be more applied, right? So how do you counsel children, for example, or how do you do counseling psychology primarily as a means of for therapy, as opposed to the more research focused. The second thing that I would say, and this is really important, and I wanted to kind of connect your question, right, with the question in the chat about overall requirements, right? So most graduate schools in the US have different pools of financial aid, right? Like one of the most important things to look for when you are considering to apply for a graduate program, whether that is a master's or a PhD program, is to find out if they have financial aid, right? So one way to finance your graduate studies is, for example, if you have any funding from your home country, right? And many of us look for like CONACYT funding first, right? Like that's a really good place to start. Another way, right, is, as I had mentioned earlier, there is the bilateral commission. If you're interested in coming to the United States, then we have the Fulbright Garcia Robles, right, program. That is this binational commission for exchange. Also another good mechanism. Both of those tend to be, as everything, very competitive, right? So you kind of need to prepare for those well in advance. But there is a third option, which is colleges and universities in the US that offer graduate programs also have some institutional-based financial aid. They are not usually, sometimes they can be a scholarship, but the more frequent way to find this is if you want to learn one search term to do in a website is the phrase graduate assistantship, and this is very, very interesting. So a graduate assistantship is employment that the university offers in exchange, of course, for your work, right? So you work for the university, and in return, the university covers your tuition costs, and they often pay you a small amount of money, right? Just barely enough to live, but it's very helpful. I didn't really know this until I actually had the fortune of having a graduate assistantship. And through graduate assistantships, I was able to cover both my master's and my doctoral studies. Of course, these are competitive, right? But what happens is if you get an assistantship, it's like a work contract, right? The university offers you a job, and the compensation, the payment is tuition costs and a stipend. They usually tell you how much you're going to make for the year or month by month. And this is another source of funding that the university offers, right? So you always want to apply to places that at least will have some information about graduate assistantships. And it's like a job, right? Normally you will have to apply for that separately, and then there will be some kind of interview so that you can be selected. It's a really good way to finance your studies. And what I would say, particularly in psychology, right, to go back to Frida's question, many graduate programs in psychology will offer that for a number of reasons. But one of them is that many faculty, many professors need support with their teaching or with their research. And they will hire, right, students to help them with that. You know, psychology is one of the most popular courses in, you know, for undergraduate students. So sometimes the courses, the classes have many, many students enrolled. So then the professor will have several teaching assistants who are graduate students, right? So that's another opportunity also to fund your studies. So I hope that that I'm answering that, Frida, and And yeah, no, thank you for your question. And I hope this idea of graduate assistantships too will be helpful to all of you considering pursuing a graduate degree. I think I have seen, my pleasure. No, thank you for your question. And I think I had seen Carmina, with the next question. So please go ahead.
Well, hi, I'm Carmina. I'm in my senior year of high school in Assistantship. And my question is like, if in BC has a preparation course of the TOEFL exam or a course of English, but when I can speak with other people that have an accent like me or native or teachers there that can help me with my English to improve it and to pass the exam TOEFL or the IELTS. I think it's in Cambridge. And that's my question.
Yes, that's a great question. So unfortunately, Boston College does not offer like a language intensive training program. But the good news is that Boston offers many programs, right? There are different schools, right? So there is the well, first of all, the University of Massachusetts Boston, right here in the city, has that English intensive program. There is also a number of other institutions in Boston that offer TOEFL and IELTS tutoring and training for that. And there are some summer schools, summer programs too for that. But unfortunately, within Boston College, we don't offer that. However, that's fine, right? Because for admission purposes, we will accept any kind of score, right? Like once you take the test, the score goes with you to any institution that you choose to apply. And I would encourage you, of course, to search for other sort of English intensive courses. Where I used to work before at the University of Connecticut, we did have that type of preparation program, but unfortunately we don't currently at Boston College. But not to worry, many other institutions offer also very high quality English preparation programs. And at Boston College, we do have a high number of international students. So, you know, you should always feel encouraged to apply. So I wonder if we can do another round of questions. I think I had written down most of the people. Oh, I think I had one more. I cannot see your first name, but Hernandez, I have you as the next one on the list. Sorry about that I'm not catching your first name.
Doesn't matter. How expensive is the Boston College, and what opportunities such as scholarships or campus jobs are available?
So it really depends on your program of study, right? So if you're interested in, if you are interested in a graduate program, let's say a master's or a doctoral program, it's a little bit different, right? First of all, do not fall back when you hear the price, but the more because there is a difference. This is a very important thing from outside looking into the US, right? We always have what we call the sticker price, right? Which is like if you're like, you know what it sounds like. If you go to the store, there is a price, right, on the sticker. Barely anybody, almost nobody ever pays that full amount, right? Because there is most importantly the net price, which is what people actually pay. The sticker price in our graduate programs is fairly high. It's about $23,000 a year if you are taking the full sort of like graduate load. Now, of the students that I'm currently working with, very few of them are paying anywhere near that full cost. In fact, the majority of the students that I'm working with, they have graduate assistantships, right? And the graduate assistantship covers, in many cases, the full tuition cost, right? The tuition is the colegiatura, right? Which is the actual, like the most expensive piece of the cost of attending a graduate program, right? So if there is a tuition remission with a graduate assistantship, already right there, you don't need to worry about that part, right? And then the living expenses is the other piece. So let me see if I can find on the Boston College website an example of that. Because I think it's really helpful to just kind of get a sense of the breakdown of how these graduate assistantships work. And in addition to that, there are some scholarships, right? The difference here is that, for example, great, thank you very much. Let me just show my screen very briefly. This is the Boston College graduate student life, right? So, and I'll make sure to put the link in the website. So the way it works in a typical year, right, is that all of the positions will be included, right? And you can see right now, there are indeed graduate assistantships available on campus, right? And they vary depending on the position, right? And you can see that what you actually get paid for the position varies significantly, right? So it can be as low as, you know, $1,250 up to $1,600. This is month by month for a 20-hour assistantship. In some cases, for example, there are these residential counselor positions where what they cover is that what we call a stipend, which is the money that you actually get, but this one also includes housing and a meal plan. So if you have your housing and your food covered, you have a lot less to worry about, right? So these are the kind of positions that you want to be looking for. And then these are usually the different requirements of how much they pay. Sometimes the pay is calculated by hour, sometimes it's by month, and it kind of varies. The thing, right, that you also want to look for is whether this assistantship includes a tuition remission, which is a very important part. But as you can see, these are currently available graduate assistantships, right? These are things that if you are admitted to a graduate program, you can apply for. And of course, it covers a significant portion of your of the cost, right? In a way, and I just posted the link in the chat. And Boston College is not alone in this. Most colleges and universities will have some different forms of graduate assistantships available, right? Because we know that most people just don't have the kind of money, right, to cover tuition costs, particularly with the exchange rate, right, between Mexican pesos and US dollars. Like, we realize there are many obstacles. So that's a very important piece, right? And you may want to do your research about how many, right, assistantships are available within any given academic program. Uxmal, maybe we can go next with your question.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, first of all, I want to say thanks for giving us part of your time to be here. Okay, my name is Usmal, and my main question will be, what are the requirements for an international scholarship or a graduate assistantship? As you have said, it's very competitive, and how can we make our applications to stand out from the rest? Thank you.
That's a fantastic question, right? First of all, I would say, and this is really important, right? That most colleges and universities in the United States really value the diversity that international students bring, right? Like we bring a different culture, we bring a different perspective, and generally speaking, international students make a very significant contribution to the life of the university. And this is important, right? And for that reason, in many places, in many universities, if you are an international applicant, that already makes you stand out, right, to begin with. So I would say it's very important to get a little bit of advice. I guess the two most important pieces of advice that I could give you is that you, when you apply for graduate assistantships, at the very least, you will be required to submit two things. One of them is your resume, right, or curriculum, and that's an important piece to submit, right? I would say look for samples within the, you know, and doing this online is probably the easiest way. It's important to see that different countries will have different cultural expectations about what you put on a resume. For example, in our home country, it's not unusual to include your citizenship, your marriage status, right? Are you married or single? And even a photography, right? A picture. In the US context, we never share any personal information in a resume, right? So we don't include anything that could be grounds for discrimination, such as personal information, right? Like we don't do that, right? Because in the US, we tend to think that we should be able to make a decision without having this information, right? So I would say, do a little bit of research about what goes into a resume in the US, right? Try to adapt your resume to those standards. The other piece is that cover letter to say, you know, I want to express interest in this graduate assistantship. The most important piece there is that you write that letter in response to what I showed you just a moment ago, which is the job description. What are the requirements and how you meet those requirements? But it's also important, right, that you also bring something about the diversity that you could contribute to the position. That's really important, right? And I think as international students, you have a very strong case to make in favor of this. So, and if I can help at any point, right, like I will make sure to share my email address too. So if at any point you are applying, whether that is for a graduate program or an assistantship, and I can just take a quick look at your materials, I would be happy to do that. It's, you know, like I said, many people helped me to apply to programs. The other piece that I would say, letters of recommendation are very important, and it's really, you should try to plan in advance. Try to think about which professors you may want to be asking for a letter of recommendation at some point, right? So keep that in mind, and yeah, that's a really good question. Do we have any other questions? Oh yeah, go ahead, Hector, and we also have Anna.
Oh, hi, my name is Anna, and I think somebody asked the same. I'd like to know how about the age? Is important? That's it.
So that's a fantastic question, right? Like we have different ideas too, right? About what is a traditional student. In the US, we celebrate people of all different ages, right? Everybody brings different perspective, right? Like a different idea. It is never too late to pursue a graduate program, right? And it really is different. We often, for example, look at the experience, right? So some of our students are coming right from undergraduate, they finish their bachelor's and they're applying to graduate school. That's great. But there could be other people, right, that graduated and have been working, they have gotten a lot of experience, and then they want to pursue a graduate program, and that means that they're maybe in their 40s or 50s. That's not a problem at all, right? Everybody has that chance, and we never see that as an obstacle to say you're either too young or too old to learn. That's definitely something that at any age you can certainly go for that. I'm seeing one more hand before Hector, but Hector, did you want to say something at the end? Okay, so we can go with Carmen, and then I think yeah. Go ahead, Carmen.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank you because you seem like a very kindness person to us, and I want to thank you for that and for the opportunity to practice our English in this little time that we have. And my question will, well, I think that the information, it has been very clear and very complete. Actually, I was going to ask you for your some way to get in touch with you, and you already sent us your email, and I want to thank you for that. And I want to ask you a very maybe personal question, and it will be that what do you miss the most of Mexico, and if you did, why? That's
Absolutely.
My question. Thank you.
That's a great question, and of course, it's really my pleasure to first of all to be a resource for all of you and answer any questions that you may have, and if you want to stay in touch beyond today, certainly most welcome to do that. I would say what I miss the most is my family. So my parents still live in Acapulco, and you can imagine I have been before taking for granted traveling home, right? So I would be in Mexico like 2 or 3 times a week, not a week, a year, right? So I would, just travel there the first opportunity that I had, right? And now it's been over a year that I haven't seen my family of origin, right? Like my parents. I have a brother who has his own family, and like a nephew and a niece, and so it's been really hard to be away from home, but it's primarily because of the pandemic, right? So I'm really hopeful that once the pandemic is over, or we get the vaccine, or whatever happens first, I'm really looking forward to being able to going back, and that part, right? That connection with the family is hard to maintain online. And Hector, do we have time for one last question? I'm seeing Jose Alberto's hand up, and maybe we do that as the last question, and then we transition with you. Sounds good. So Jose Alberto, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Well, my name is Jose Alberto. I am current student in chemistry, and I would like to apply for a graduate program, maybe a master or a PhD in the States. So I was curious about the assistantship, when I was trying to do a research about how to apply to different universities, but I didn't really understand that part of the assistantship. So you are already explained. I thank you about it. But I also have a question, because I also saw a term which I didn't understand very good. And what's the difference between an assistantship and a fellowship, and the stipends also?
Yeah. So right, great questions. The stipend is the money that you actually get from the university, right? The stipend is the pay that they, you know, the check that they, or the money transfer that they make month by month, right? So you want to check, well, how much that's going to be, and is that going to be enough to cover my expenses, right? Number one. That's a fantastic question, right? An assistantship usually is given in exchange for work. A fellowship is, and I would say assistantships are usually most common for master's programs, right? Fellowships are very common, or more common for doctoral programs, because you are in chemistry. Few people get a master's in chemistry. That's not as common. Most people will go directly into a PhD in chemistry. And the good news for you is because you are in the STEM, and STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM fields in the US are better funded than social sciences and humanities. So if you apply for a PhD, normally, especially in chemistry, biology, right, STEM fields, they will have a fellowship rather than an assistantship. And that fellowship usually means that you are helping with research. And those are usually better funded, right? Like those are good options, right? So if you are going to a doctoral program, look for both fellowships and assistantships. Both are, it depends on the institution. Each institution sometimes uses slightly different terms, but the good news is that for chemistry, there are usually better funding opportunities, especially now that we are having COVID and that there is more and more funding. I know that at Boston College, we have a large operation around testing, and our chemistry department is running all of that. So that's in a way kind of good news for you. So I'm looking at the time, and I just want to turn it over to Hector.
Okay, thank you very much, Gerardo, for your time, for your answers. And I think they are going to be in touch with you, because there are so many other questions to discuss, very interesting life in Boston, in the academia. So we really appreciate your time, and I hope we can work together again in the future for next winter or summer programs, or some chats, some webinars. So we would love to be in touch with you. Thank you everybody, guys, for attending. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you tomorrow in class and with the next chat.